Hey guys, this is Rise, and I'm here with Diggity bringing you set 2 of Horang2 versus Frozean, the OSL match round of 36. Very exciting stuff. I gotta say, I really like this new intro for this Star League. I think it's actually got great music, and that's not to say that they didn't do a great job in the previous ones. Certainly a lot of the previous ones were really fun to watch too, but this one, in particular, it's short and sweet and to the point, and I like it. And I don't like that guy in the right, though, Frozean. Although, he's not that bad, really. I didn't even realize that he was traded to STX until I just saw him in that shirt. I'm always so used to watching him on Samsung Con with that stupid little beanie that he always wears. But it looks like he decided to take that beanie off in hopes to win against Horang2. And in the last set, we saw a very exciting match where Horang2 went Carriers, one of my favorite units. One of the capital units in the game where you just make them because they're way overpowered and are great with a move if you're playing against computers. But with the pros, when you micro them, they are unstoppable. So, Diggity, what are your predictions now with a new map in mind and after that first game, the way things went? Do you think that Frozean could get back in this? Does he stand a chance?
Frozean's one of those players where he wins games that you don't expect him to win, and the thing is, he's going up against Horang2. It's not like he's going up against Jaedong, and like that's the thing. He'll go up against an S-class player like Jelizerg and give him a run for their money, and it's like, what? You know, you're terrible against Zerg. How did that happen? But this is against Horang2, and Horang2's a wild card himself, so I almost want to equate him to Cal. He plays very similarly, I think. He's just very, very intelligent, very, very kind of off-kilter play. He's starting at the 9 o'clock position, by the way, as the brown Protoss. We have Frozean at the 3 o'clock position as the yellow Terran. There's another expansion at the 12 o'clock, and this is a difficult map for Terran because I think that's a 3-wide ramp, maybe a 4-wide. And this is basically sort of outsider-esque. It's called El Nino, and you have basically a natural expansion down your ramp. And if you trip a SCV through it or a probe through it, there's another expansion you can take kind of along the exterior, basically. All the additional expansions are at the exterior. But unlike Outsider, I feel like it's a very resource-light map. There is gas out there to be had, but still, I feel like mobility is the key here. So again, I feel like Arbiters, Dropships, Reavers, are the big thing to go specifically for Protoss and Terran. Dropships very important because again you want to sneak the vultures through, and in the later expansions in the game you need that mobility to kind of sneak back behind, go do some damage back there. And in those, I don't know, we'll have to see how it works out. I don't know the statistics on this map. I think this is my first time actually seeing it, but it looks like it's going to be pretty entertaining. I'm kind of excited to see specifically Protoss versus Terran on this, because I think specifically the late game with the Arbiter versus potentially dropship play, it could be very, very entertaining.
Now, I gotta say that I like the snow tile set. You just don't see that enough these days in map making. You always see jungle or ash or the Byzantium tile set, whatever that might be called. I don't actually know. And it's always fun to watch a map in Iceland. I don't know why. I just find it fun. I did want to point out that we got a quick glimpse at Horang2, and he was sweating or perspiring profusely. I'm kind of curious as to why, but maybe he just felt a lot of pressure on that last game. Obviously, that was a cliffhanger, and if he didn't do what he did, he would have lost that game for sure. So certainly he probably has a lot of pressure on him after that last game, and I wonder if that's going to actually affect his play at all. I love to think about that sort of stuff. How is the last game, and how is this game, and how are the circumstances at hand going to affect the player's gameplay? The mind games behind things, because certainly all that stuff does play a certain amount of have some sort of impact in it. But for now, it looks like Horang2 is going for potentially a proxy, as is a pylon out right outside of Frozean's base, but he is getting a range upgrade on his cybernetics core. So I don't know if that's because of Frozean's scout being in there, but for now it looks like he's getting goons with range. Although please go back to the cybernetics core. Does he cancel it? No. It's still spinning, and they point this out too. So I'm very curious as what he's going to do with that proxy pylon. The other question is Frozean going to guess something is up? But no, it looks like he's going for a very standard FD build, getting that quick expansion going. And another Stargate coming up for Horang2. Diggity, what is this guy thinking?
I have no idea at this stage, honestly. I guess he's going Air 1. I think he might actually produce a scout in this game, because he's producing the Stargate right off the bat, off a single gate. He's got to get those Dragoons out in the field. Maybe he's going range because he needs to make sure that Frozean doesn't scout this, because if Frozean does, he could do a lot of damage. I do like that pylon to the north because it serves a couple purposes, because first of all, that missing pylon is going to throw Frozean off. Additionally, he'll be able to kind of scout if it's coming out the field. Looks like Frozean already has an engineering bay being produced, playing very safe. He's kind of thinking maybe Dark Templar. Looks like he's headed to the north, and again, that pylon, well, one, it'll make him think twice, but two, that'll give a nice indicator. He's not going to be able to sneak through as much. It'll be, if he goes to kind of push an SCV through that, Horang's going to see it. He's going to see kind of that push pylon. If vultures, or I should say dropships, head that direction, he's going to be able to spot them there, so it's also a nice information scout altogether. And he also has that probe behind to kind of get a good look, and he's going one base carrier. Wow. Okay, Horang is just loving the carriers this game, or I should say this set. He's going to go one base carrier again against Frozean, and if Frozean sniffs this out at all, if he can get any sort of scout off on this, if he has any sort of sensation tingling in his fingers, he should be able to fight this off. But if not, he could end up in a lot of trouble.
When is the last time you actually saw a successful one-base carrier build? I can't even remember a game where a player was successful, specifically in Protoss versus Terran, although it'd be very, very unlikely in Protoss versus Protoss, where the player is actually successful with one-base carriers. I forget who said it, but I remember hearing recently on someone's cast of something, and they were saying that there's nothing sadder than seeing a Protoss go carriers off for one base. And he was actually alluding to a player who has just lost his natural or whatever. But even then, it's just such an expensive build to be doing off one base. I mean, it's like building a Nexus every time you want to build another carrier. And it looks like he is actually going to get an expansion, which is definitely going to make this build a lot more viable. But is he building anything yet? I don't even know if he's actually building anything yet. He may have made those starports way too early, because at this point, it looks like they weren't even blinking lights, and if that's the case, he's in a lot of trouble. And we're seeing an armory already up for Frozean and an academy, so I can only imagine, and they are both blinking at this point. Could he possibly have enough for two carriers already? I don't know, so we can only wait and see what happens at this point.
I think he did, because he's only got 3 Dragoons out in the field, and that is the entirety of his ground force. It looks like Frozean, he's got to get that weapons 1 upgrade as quickly as possible. Additionally, get the Goliath range. I think he has figured that something is up, because again, he only saw 3 Dragoons as he approached, and he didn't see an expansion. When you don't see an expansion already built, and you only see 3 Dragoons, that's got to lead you to the conclusion that you're facing something like this. He's got that single turret and just 2 Marines, though, not a lot of anti-air, getting some comsat now, but it looks like Horang, if he can micro this just to perfection, he might be able to do enough damage to take this match, but it's going to take a lot, and I mean an incredible amount of carrier micro to pull this build off, and it's going to be very, very dicey, particularly if Frozean just picks those 3 or 4 tanks up and goes in for an attack, because then Horang is basically stuck, I think, because those 3 Dragoons are not going to be able to fight it back. I think that comsat might have caught in the glimpse of the corner of the Stargates, but additionally, and Frozean's going to be stuck, I'm sorry, Horang's going to be stuck at needing to do 2 things at once. He's going to need to go and slow down Frozean's tech, his economy, stop the Goliath production, and defend his base simultaneously, and I don't think he's going to be able to do both at once.
I gotta agree with you there. I think that he's really put himself in an awkward position here. I think that he was a little overconfident in the fact that Frozean really didn't do a very good job against his carrier micro last time. But this time, I mean, really, he's got a lot more time to prepare for it. And he sees him now as his Marine gets killed, and you can see his face as he desperately is going to start putting down some turrets. So, if anything, I mean, Horang2 has done a great job of catching him off guard so far. His misinformation was very well done. But that one turret alone is going to do... And a Wraith is out! That Wraith is actually what's going to cause the most trouble as soon as Cloaking gets upgraded. And like you said last game, he didn't have the time or the money to make observers until way late in the game. He just didn't have the resources. And at this point, he's definitely not going to have the resources since he just now got a second base up, and he's probably trying to get a robo up in the very near future. But really, Frozean at this point, I can't help but feel he is in a fantastic position. Now that he knows carriers are out on the field, Horang2 is definitely all in at this point. He is not going back. He's got a second cybernetics core going up. There's a robo to try to get some observers out, but he is going to have a tough time keeping this build up now that Frozean is very well aware of what's going on, as well as he's getting up a third base. So again, Frozean in a great position, Horang2 not so much.
I do have to say I really liked what Horang2 did with his maneuver across the front of Frozean's base. He went tank hunting essentially. He wanted to make sure those tanks didn't have position to go wandering out and taking and doing any damage right here. But this is the thing, even though Frozean's planning a ton of turrets down, he can afford to do this. He is way ahead economically. He does have that third base that's getting harassed back. So Horang2, this is his, I guess, his plan at this stage is cling on, keep Frozean in his base while he gets a large carrier force out, make sure he can't take any additional bases, and just hope that he overplants turrets, I guess. But honestly, I think between Goliaths, between Wraiths, he'll be okay. He's only got 3 Dragoons on the ground. Horang2 actually doing it. He's already got the 2 carriers to defend his front door as well now. So essentially, that's kind of made it so that Frozean can't just go for that push with those tanks that I was talking about earlier. But with that group repair on those turrets, he ended up in a great position to do so, and it looks like he's going to wander out, take another expansion, plant some turrets here, and just play the economic game and try to catch up that direction. Very intelligent from Horang2, just in case some vultures are racing that direction, planting a couple more pylons down. It looks like he's going to try to switch back to some gateways to get some semblance of a ground army, and he's thinking about taking that 12 o'clock base, which I guess he feels he has map control right now with those carriers. I don't know how long it's going to last, particularly with just the Goliath force that could be produced very rapidly. We've already got the 4, you can see the 4 factories, actually that 4th factory just being planted. There's already several Goliaths out, and I expect just more. It's just going to be an outpour of a ton of Goliaths, and it looks like they already have that range upgrade. As soon as they hit Weapons 1, really I feel like if Shield 1 was already up, Horang2 would be in a better position, but I think Weapons 1 is going to be able to beat it. That's why he needs that second cybernetic score to just race the upgrades and try to play it that direction. But we'll see how it works out in the late game. I'm not going to say this game is completely over. Anything can happen at this stage, but right now I feel like Frozean's in a great position.
Yeah, it's got to be said though that really Horang2 was draining his economy with those carriers, not just by producing them, but of course with the interceptors that go along with it. And really, he lost quite a few. When you have only a couple carriers, those interceptors go down very quickly. And now he does have what looks to be 6 carriers out, so that's certainly a good number to start going around hunting with. And he may be able to do some damage. I think that Frozean is kind of letting him have his way a little bit too much and getting that carrier force up, but at the same time, Frozean just didn't have the factories down to produce the troops required, and he does have a lot of fronts to defend. He's got 3 bases now at this point that he's got to keep an eye on, so he can't just push out all willy-nilly like and try to take out the carriers that Horang2 has. And it looks like both players are actually considering putting up a 4th base, and at this point Horang2 is going to put some pressure on what looks to be the front door and the main base of Frozean. But Frozean, again, he's got some Goliaths there. He should be well covered. He's got a lot of turrets, and we'll have to see if exactly what we were talking about before. It looks like he just goes interceptor hunting for the most part, and if he keeps draining that, that's going to hurt Horang2 and make it very difficult for him to keep up these numbers. But it looks like he's going to take out the armory. That armory is about to go down. It goes down, and that was brilliance right there. That is going to slow down the production of those Goliaths, especially if that building was making an upgrade of some sort, whether it was weapons or armor at this point. I don't know. I wish they would click on a Goliath so we could actually see what the upgrades were at. So that was brilliant. A covert ops being built on by Frozean. What the hell is this?
Wow, we're going to see a covert ops and some lockdown come into the mix to try to take out those carriers, which could be very, very effective. We'll see. It looks like, I think I saw a dropship. I assume, I see that, yeah, we're probably going to see a dropship. It's possible we might see nukes. Potentially might see nukes. This is the interesting thing with those carriers, is they're very slow, they're very mobile. Looks like they're going to catch this expansion in the upper right, so they got to just kind of patrol around and make sure they have good vision on the map. And it looks like some Goliaths wandering out, they're going to get immediately lambasted. But already with that level 2 weapons, unfortunately for Horang2, I think he was hoping he was going to get the level 2, the armory that was producing the weapons upgrade. Instead he got the armor upgrade. Frozean has a fairly substantial attack force moving forward towards his base, and those carriers are going to be locked to mostly defensive posturing to try to snipe those tanks. That's going to leave them very exposed with those interceptors. And the thing though, I think Horang2 did manage to sneak an expansion at that 11, I think at that 12 o'clock. I saw him planting it. It's possibly canceled a while ago. But critically what this is going to do is this is going to buy Frozean some time to get another expansion and get his ghosts out and play.
And really that's going to be very interesting if he can manage to do that. But you can see that Frozean's got a very large army out in the middle, and those carriers can only go so far to get around them, and they're taking a lot of hits from these Goliaths. And now we're starting to see, oh my god, there are the interceptors going down. You can see them just popping left and right to the ridiculously upgraded Goliaths already. But we are seeing the upgrades in effect for Horang2 as well. He's got the armor upgrade on the carriers already. I'd like to see his base to see if he's still upgrading. He should be, if he's going to stick with them. The other thing is he continuing to make the carriers? Is he really all in? Because we saw he did do a switch back to some gateways, but I would imagine that he's going to keep doing it. Another upgrade is spinning. Only one of the 2 cybernetics core are active at this time, so it looks like he is going to keep upgrading. But like you said, he's pretty good economically right now, but he is going to be a little bit behind. There's the second cybernetics core, so he is going to dedicate to these upgrades for those carriers and continue to attack with them. But do not do that, Horang2. What are you doing? Going straight into a mass of Goliaths that, you know, they don't run out of missiles, Horang2. They just keep shooting. So you shouldn't do that. But in the meantime, it looks like Frozean is going to get up a 4th base of his own. And really, I got to say, Frozean, I feel like, is doing a great job here, just being patient and really bolstering up his forces as those ghosts start coming out. And maybe we will see that lockdown you were talking about. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if he's going to try to build a nuclear silo with this additional base. I don't think he has the resources to do so, so I'm expecting more lockdown. But as soon as those ooh, actually that's not a perfect seal, and there wasn't a unit in the way to try to blockade that. Looks like that ramp is going to be, actually it's 1 wide. I did not expect that. Just kind of the feature of it. I haven't played on this map either. The carrier is able to take care of that vulture rather rapidly, but they're going to see basically what they wanted to see. The gateway count at this stage. Some other features, looks like there's still 2 armories in place. The upgrade's going to be going very rapidly. And Frozean's had a pretty good economic lock on this game for quite some time. It's been 3 base versus 3 base. The carriers kind of disrupt that equation, because usually you want to stay 1 base ahead is Protoss, but that's kind of throwing in the idea that, oh, okay, you're teching up, you're playing kind of a standard game. When you get carriers right out in the early onset, it kind of adjusts, it kind of manipulates the equation a little bit. So I've got to say Horang2's not completely out of this still, but with that 4th base in play, he's certainly in a lot of danger. Looks like he's going to be able to snipe. Wow, able to take that command center down extremely rapidly before Frozean was able to provide any mobility. And I got to say, I do like carriers early on this map. I like carriers in general on this map because it's a lot like Outsider, where mobility is a huge issue, and the carriers have a good, you can see that big lake they can just kind of sit and move back across from. Even though they haven't been effective at doing this thus far, at least in the late game, they're really playing a really important factor, attacking that 6 o'clock, pinning Frozean back on his bases. But the ghosts are out. I assume they have lockdown. I don't know whether they have cloaking or not. If any of those carriers, even a handful of those carriers get locked down, it could just completely turn the tide of this battle.
And there they go. They're trying to get into the middle of things. But, oh, I heard one. One has gotten locked down so far, and Horang2 knows this. Is he picking off the ghost? I think the second one gets locked down. Beautiful. He's got a large ground attack going, but for Frozean is just, he's got way too many Goliaths and tanks. There's no way that Horang2's going to just be able to break that with his ground forces. Only 2 lockdowns have happened. I was hoping for a couple of more. Certainly not as well microed as Boxer would do with his lockdowns, I'm sure. But he is, it looks like he may get a couple of free carrier kills here. One of them about to go down, so close to being sniped, and that is definitely going to go down at this point. Will he get the second one, though? If he can do that, that is exactly something that he definitely wants to do. If he can take out carriers like that, you leave yourself in a great position. It looks like he did manage to get that second one. Will he keep doing the lockdown, though? That is a very wondrous thing to be right now. If he's going to keep going with the lockdown, I think it's a great idea. And he's already got the ghosts out, and it's researched, and they're not that expensive where he shouldn't do it. Well worth it if you can pick off a carrier or 2. And so this is turning out to be very beautiful. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is the food count at the bottom right. Looks like we got 130, and I think the 130 is Horang2 actually, and the 110 would be Frozean. So it looks like the Protoss is actually ahead, but a lot of that is in those carriers. Each one costing so much food that's definitely weighing him down in that respect. So actually, that probably doesn't make that big of a difference after all.
Yeah, the one thing I'm really concerned about is his rank. He needs to go take a base someplace, because Frozean's done a really good job with his economy. He's got level 3 weapons upgrade, which is going to make this really brutal. Let's see if he can snipe his command center. Again, able to annihilate that command center. You can see the carrier's mobility once again being a big factor right there, able to take that and just snipe it down. Frozean ultimately could just get starved out if Horang2 can take another base. Otherwise, I think Horang2's going to end up getting starved out in this this match. It looks like level 2 armor, level 2 wow, shield of all thing. I've got to assume he's got level 2 weapons as well. But a pretty, not the sizable carrier force. I'm kind of curious if those ghosts got wiped out as well. It looks like another expansion, I missed that actually at the 12 o'clock, a mineral-only expansion has been taken. It looks like that Vulture's going to be able to scout it, but I don't think Frozean can really move out and do anything about that at this stage. He's now got the supply lead, but I don't think he can press against kind of the map artifacts, move forward. I feel like that's just too sizable an attack force, unless he does have 2 ghosts. If he has maybe 1 or 2 more ghosts on top of that, if he has 4 ghosts he can throw in there, lock down a couple of those carriers, or at least force those carriers back and get some headway for those tanks, he might be able to press forward and take this out. Maybe wait for armor 2 and push in there. But the problem with that last fight is going in after you had that lockdown, he ran and tried to snipe those carriers and just overextended himself, I would say a little bit too much, and ended up losing a lot of Goliaths essentially for free. Comsetting there, not able, okay, he's going to be able to take out that observer to deny a little bit of spotting here, but right now Frozean just trying to take expansions wherever he can. And he's going to, wow, at right next to, this is crazy, right next to Horang2's base, going to take an expansion right there to continue the economic pressure. He does have some more ghosts in play, and I gotta say, this, I have no idea what's going to happen in this match. I kind of expect a starvation match ultimately, but it could go absolutely either way here. But oh, that's a lot of Goliaths.
Yeah, I was just going to say that is, he's got 5 ghosts though, and the ghosts in this game I definitely feel are the X factor, you know? If he can use them effectively, that could easily swing the game back into his favor, because you know what? If you can lock down 5 carriers, you just can't defend them, because half of your carrier forces is just ineffective at this point, so you have half the interceptors, and he's still got the same amount of Goliath, so how do you really defend this? And really, look at the ground force that we're seeing from Horang2. He does not have a large ground force, so... And again, it looks like he's going in to try to snipe that command center, but this time, so many Goliaths, it looks like he's not going to actually be able to do that. And you're right, this is looking like it's going to turn into a starvation game, and that I'm kind of worried about. It looks like Horang2 has actually found Frozean's base right under his zone. And we're only seeing 4 gateways right there, and I think that's it. But he is on 1 base mine. Nope, he's got 2 bases mining at this point. And so he is finally taking Diggity's advice and getting some more bases. And I really feel like he's got to get a couple of more ground forces to really stand up any chance against this push that we're seeing coming from Frozean. That is a large metal blob, and I don't know if Horang2 is prepared to deal with this.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything to really stop this. He really needs to engage these Goliaths as they're coming across that bridge where you have the map artifacts to work with. In open ground like those Goliaths are going to brutalize that base. They're just going to hammer it down rather rapidly. And it looks like he has some vultures to the north to destroy the rest, but Horang2 is going to go in with a massive attack right on Frozean's front door. This might actually end up working against him, because I think he might end up pinning all of his attack forces, dedicating with this huge attack at that natural secondary. He might end up trapping his entire attack force in there. You can see Frozean crashing down, bringing almost all of his forces back, just leaving a little bit there in the back.
Sorry guys, it looks like Diggity actually just got cut off. Vent dropped his bolt. That's why you can hear my microphone probably sounds differently. So I'll have to continue to commentate the rest of this game solo, because this is after the fact. And I've kind of lost my voice from yesterday already, and now we're seeing some more lockdown once again at this point, and beautiful job at this time. I mean, this is exactly what he needs to be doing. 4 lockdowns. This is what I was looking to see earlier in the game, and earlier we only saw 2, maybe 3 lockdowns spread all apart, but this time that was effective use of lockdown. He really cut out a lot of carriers all at once at that time, and now we just have a ton of Goliaths against not that many carriers because of the lockdown carriers. So this is a great position for Frozean to be in. Even though the carriers are inside his base, they are not really doing as much damage, and another lockdown goes down. So I mean, really, this is a very tough spot, and more Goliaths popping out every second. There's a couple of units, a Dragoon and a couple of the Zealots inside the base of Frozean. You can see the look of desperation on Horang2's face. He knows that if he doesn't pull this off now, this is going to be it. He is not going to be able to win this game. And oh, targeted by the turret. That was beautiful. Turret's targeting these carriers and actually taking them out. It looks like he managed to take out one, almost got a second one. Those upgrades are great, but only to a certain degree, when you're taking free shots, I mean, you're going to take damage one way or the other. You can only take so much before you start losing your units. And, I mean, really, all these turrets up here right now are not only great for delaying, but they are doing some damage. They're taking out some interceptors, and they've been taking out carriers, believe it or not. So that's pretty amazing, and very impressive work by Frozean, as it looks like he may, if he target fires, he may be able to get a couple more carriers, but right now, he's just taking out so many interceptors, and Horang2 just doesn't have the economy to deal with this anymore. He's down to a couple of bases mining and only a few patches that they just showed a little while ago. And now he's going up against way too many Goliaths. I mean, Frozean has an economy. It's working, it's running, and he's got a nice solid income that really, he's spending a lot on turrets and stuff, but he's coming out ahead. As you can see, there are almost no interceptors left. And Horang2 is in a horrible position at this point. Vulture's just running right into the base of Horang2, and there's nothing that he can do. Frozean being very clever here. He knows that Horang2 is hurt, and he's very overextended with these carriers. And GG coming from Horang2. So that was a pretty amazing play, in my opinion. Look at this kid. He is perspiring profusely. I think I said that before, but maybe I didn't. Maybe it got cut off in the last commentary. Who knows? And so beautiful job by Frozean in set 2, and that just means that we're going to go on and see a set 3. Will it be another game of carriers? I don't know. We'll just have to watch and find out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Diggity will be back for that next commentary. GG.